I'm reporting from bed, because where I will not be leaving for a few years. Just kidding. I just want to. Every time I make a video, I just want to. I want to start by sort of saying one short thing about what's going on in this country in which we live, because um it's important. I mean, it's not that it's important, but I think it's just, it's on if you're sane, it's got to be on everybody's mind, whether you're doom scrolling or you're reading the news or you're not reading the news, and then you are reading the news because you feel somehow this. I'm speaking for myself. Somehow, if I don't check in with the news every once in a while, something will happen which will affect me directly, and I will die, as people are already dying because of what's happening in this fascist regime that we are living under. Two things I just read. I don't know if this is true or not, but it's kind of interesting. Apparently, insurance companies are now refusing to insure motorists if they own a Tesla. Interesting. The second thing I just want to say, as a point of I don't know, edification. What's really fascinating, I keep pairing in my mind. I keep pairing. I don't give a shit about why or how this insane human being is doing things. We all know why he's doing things, because he's insane. Period. Remove him. I don't care about his logic. He doesn't have logic, okay? So there's that. And there's also this thing where I'm thinking, the government is supposed to be working for the people, and what's going on now, in a very simple way of putting it, is that the government is working for the government. It doesn't recognize that there are people who live in the country in which they govern, because they're taking away. They're taking. We all know what they're doing, and It's going to cause people to die. So that's kind of alarming. And as day goes by, and as each nightmare sort of unfolds in this kind of, it's not even dystopian, it's existential. It's an existential. It's not a constitutional crisis. It's an existential crisis, because psyches are being, attacked. I mean, I don't know how you are. I mean, I'm not 100% saying as it is, but man, um, it's really interesting to be living in a country in which you are forced to think about stuff that you would probably never think about. I was never political until the last time the fucking Red Menace, or what's I can't think of a good nickname for him, but you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, enough of that. I'm keeping my hair up these days with a little barrette, which just fell out. Because I like them. I'm growing my hair long because it's going to be the last time I grow my hair. I've decided this has gone on for a month. I think it stopped. For some reason, when I was falling asleep last night, I was thinking of the poetry of Philip Levine's, which I adore, most of it. There's a very, this just came to me. There's a great story about him and Adrian Rich, where in an interview, he called her a cunt, and they stopped speaking. They stopped speaking after that. And I think it was in an interview that was actually published. But anyway, um, so fuck him for that, but bless him for the poems, because many of them are remarkable. This is one that I just sort of. So I was thinking about him as I was falling asleep last night, and I was thinking about this poem called "You Can Have It," which is about his brother. He was a twin, I believe. And he actually sent me a letter when my first book was published, telling me that, I think, because I talk about my twin brother in that book. But anyway, which is very sweet of him to send. I did not know him. I think I met him once. But this is a poem about, and the other thing about him that's so great, he was a huge listener of music and jazz. And he loved Charlie Parker. And this is about Charlie Parker, among other things. It's called "Call It Music." And as I said, I was falling asleep. I mean, thinking about Philip Levine and that poem, "You Can Have It," and then I decided to look, to read him again, which I spent the morning doing. And this poem was not in my wheelhouse until now. So, and it's fantastic. What can I tell you? "Call It Music" by Philip Levine. Some days I catch a rhythm, almost a song, in my own breath. I'm alone here in Brooklyn Heights, late morning, the sky above the St. George Hotel, clear, clear for New York, that is. The radio playing Bird Flight, Parker in his California tragic voice 50 years ago, his faltering lover man just before he crashed into chaos. I would guess that outside the recording studio in Burbank, the sun was high above the Jacaranda, jacarandas. I had to look up how to pronounce that last night, and I did. And you can have some AI thing say the word, and I just forgot how to pronounce it. But I think that's it. Jacarandas in Burbank. The sun was high above the jacarandas. It was late March. The worst of yesterday's rain had come and gone. The sky washed blue. Bird could have seen for miles if he'd looked, but what he saw was so foreign he clenched his eyes, shook his head, and barked like a dog just once. And then Howard McGee took his arm and assured him he'd be okay. I know this because Howard told me years later that he thought Bird could lie down in the hotel room they shared, sleep for an hour or more, and waken as himself. The perfect sunlight angles into my little room above Willow Street. I listen to my breath come and go and try to catch its curious taste, part milk, part iron, part blood, as it passes from me into the world. This is not me. This is automatic, this entering and exiting, my body's essential occupation without which I am a thing. The whole process has a name, a word I don't know, an elegant word, not in English or Yiddish or Spanish, a word that means nothing to me. Howard truly believed what he said that day when he steered Parker into a cab and drove the silent miles beside him while the bright world unfurled around them, filling stations, stands of fruits and vegetables, a kiosk selling trinkets from Mexico and the Philippines. It was all so actual and Western. It was a new creation coming into being, like the music of Charlie Parker, someone later called glad, though that day I would have said silent, the silent music of Charlie Parker. Howard said nothing. He paid the driver and helped Bird up 2 flights to their room, got his boots off, and went out to let him sleep as the afternoon entered the history of darkness. I'm not judging Howard. He did better than I could have now or then. Then I was 19, working on the loading docks at Railway Express, coming day by day into the damaged body of a man, while I sang into the filthy air the Yiddish drinking songs my Zadie taught me before his breath failed. Now Howard is gone, 11 years gone, the sweet voice silenced. The subtle bridge between Eldridge and Navarro, they later wrote. All that rising passion, a footnote to others. I remember in '85 walking the halls of Cass Tech, the high school where he taught after his performing days, when suddenly he took my left hand in his 2 hands to tell me it all worked out for the best. Maybe he'd gotten religion. Maybe he knew how little time was left. Maybe that day he was just worn down to my questions about Parker. To him, Bird was truly Charlie Parker, a man, a silent note, going out forever on the breath of genius, which now I hear soaring above my own breath as this bright morning fades into afternoon. Music. I'll call it music. It's what we need as the sun staggers behind the low gray clouds blowing relentlessly in from that nameless ocean, the calm and endless one. I've still to cross. Music. I'll call it music. It's what we need.